To receive coaching on how to create and grow a YouTube channel, invest in real estate, or achieve financial freedom, visit cashnow.video. Hey, what's up guys? John here. What's going on with Russia and Ukraine and the G7 countries? It's pretty shocking, and to me it's pretty concerning because it looks like this problem is only just beginning. So here's what's going on. So Russia was set to make a $100 million payment on Sunday. They say that they made this payment and it's in the clearinghouse, but the G7, the West, we haven't accepted it, right? We have not accepted the money. So they've sent the money and we haven't accepted it. We're calling it a default. This is according to Russia. And because of this, they are now saying, the G7 saying that we need to issue further sanctions because these sanctions are crippling Russia's economy, and they're crippling this economy because they're unable to make this payment, right? So they're saying that we need more of these sanctions. They're then going as far as saying that what's happening right now is that, in fact, Russia is blocking 25 million tons of grain going from Ukraine and out to other countries. And they're essentially, Russia is using food as a weapon against other locations. To me, what's concerning about this is that this is only just beginning and that they are depicting Russia as the problem in which, food problems could be coming. This, to me, signifies that we could be stepping into a much greater problem and a greater issue than we're all anticipating. On this channel, I talk about personal finance, real estate, business, and money. And I do so because you have to foresee problems. And who could have foreseen this problem a couple of years ago, right? What I'm saying now is that I think we're going to be seeing more problems coming down the road. And I think that we all need to be prepared for this financially. So the more money you have, the more options you have. I believe the new currency is options, having the ability to pivot and move, having the ability to, to make plans in advance, because this looks like it's kind of the beginning stages of a big issue. Take a look at this. So West pushes Russia into its first foreign debt since 1918, so 104 years, right? Russia has defaulted on its foreign debt for the first time since the Bolshevik Revolution more than a century ago, following reports that Moscow had failed to pay about $100 million in interest on two bonds during a 30-day grace period that expired on Sunday. The White House said the default showed the power of Western sanctions imposed on Russia since it invaded Ukraine. This morning's news around the findings of Russia's default for the first time in more than a century situates just how strong the reactions are that the U.S., along with allies and partners, have taken, as well as how dramatic the impact has been on Russia's economy, a senior administrative official said on the sidelines of a G7 summit in Germany. Russia denied it was a default, saying that the payment had been made in dollars and euros on May 27th, and the money was stuck with Euroclear, a settlement house based in Belgium. The historic default had been widely anticipated after half of Russia's foreign reserves were frozen, and the U.S. Treasury ended a carve-out from the sanctions that have allowed the U.S. bondholders to be repaid by Russia. The European Union had also made it harder for Moscow to meet its debt obligations earlier this month by sanctioning Russia's National Settlement Depository, the country's agent for its foreign currency bonds. Still, it took longer than many had expected. Sanctions have largely failed to cripple Russia's economy as surging energy prices have padded the country's coffers. Meanwhile, Russia's currency has soared to a 7-year high against the dollar. It's the strongest currency in the world right now. The country managed to pay back the creditors in dollars in April after a long saga that put it on the brink of default. The country's finance minister said in April that it made a $565 million euro bond that was due this year, as well as €84 million euro bond that was set to mature in 2024. Both payments were made in dollars. The finance minister claimed as required by the bond's contract stipulations, but that wasn't possible this time around given the recent moves by the US and the EU authorities, right? What is happening right now is they put them in a place to where they were no longer able to make good on any of their payments, even though they've tried. This is according to CNN. They've tried, they've sent the money in, they're not accepting it, right? And they're now saying that these sanctions are a good thing, right? G7 pledges, this came out 2 hours ago. G7 pledges renewed solidarity with Ukraine, more Russian sanctions, right? The leaders of the group of 7 G7, composed of the world's wealthiest democracies, have proposed to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes amid the ongoing invasion by Russia. The leaders who have met on the second day of a summit in German Castle in Bavarian Alps on Monday said in a joint statement that they will continue to provide financial, humanitarian, military, and diplomatic support to Ukraine. They also pledged to continue sustaining and intensifying international economic and political pressure on the government of Russia, Vladimir Putin. The leaders from Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States released a statement after hearing from Russian President Zelensky. The Ukrainian president gave a very clear response that now is not the time for negotiations with Russia, right? Now is not the time for negotiations. In the joint G7 statement, the leaders pledged to explore new ways to isolate Russia from participating in the global market and crack down on invasions. That came shortly after U.S. President Joe Biden said on Sunday, the G7 planned to ban the import of Russian gold. The U.S. and Western countries have imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia since February 24th invasion of Ukraine. The participants at the meeting also pledged to further reduce the dependency on Russian energy, with a similar U.S. official telling reporters earlier in the day that the G7 countries were working to develop mechanisms to set a global price cap for Russian oil and shipments to countries outside of the U.S., EU, UK, and broader G7, right? So we see where they're going with this. Things are just going to get harder. But this also just came out. This came out today. Russian turning wave of food crisis into tsunami by blocking grain imports, right? This came out Friday. Russia has transformed existing life-threatening wave of food crisis into a tsunami by blocking the export of 25 million tons of grain from Ukraine ports. The German Foreign Ministry has said, speaking at the start of the International Interministerial Food Conference in Berlin, a precursor to the G7 meeting in Germany starting this weekend, where aid groups will demand a big financial commitment to help Africa. Annalena, right, said 345 million people worldwide are currently threatened by food shortages. She said the hunger crisis was building like a life-threatening wave before us, but the Russian war that had made tsunami out of the wave. And she said Russia was using hunger as a weapon. So we can see where this whole situation is going. Like it's very clear where this is going. This is going to the end. We're going to be taking this to places that I think most people can't comprehend. They're saying that we're going to have food problems, right? This is basically what they're saying, that we're headed into potential food problems and that we are headed into a situation in which our oil price could be going up, our quality of life, our cost of living could be changing, right? Everything could be changing, and the dependence of the dollar is likely going to be greatly questioned over the coming year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. They're going to be moving into a place to where they're not going to want to deal with the dollar. I mean, if you were Russia, right, or if you were China, if you were any other country, and you saw what is happening to Russia or what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, this whole problem, would you want to have full dependence on the dollar? Probably not, right? And that's why you look at the BRICS system, the BRICS payment system, what they're moving to implement right now between South Africa, India, China, Russia, and Brazil is a basket of digital currencies to where they don't have to be relying on the dollar, right? If you go to if this is true, if what CNN said is true, which if what they're saying is true, they made the $100 million payment, but they're refusing to accept it, right? Then would you want, if you were an outside country, would you want to deal with that? Would you want to participate? It's a big question. I personally think that we're seeing a very, very big challenge, a big threat to the dollar, and a very big threat to the West. I think that we are going to be the net losers of this entire outcome. I think we are going to be the ones that are going to be suffering. But I'm curious as to what do you think? Do you think that the West is about to go through some really big problems with this and that we could potentially be at the beginning stages of this? Genuinely curious what you think. Comment down below. Let's talk about this. Subscribe. You're also subscribe on my second YouTube channel. It's going to be an interactive call-in show and a podcast starting this upcoming week. And follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok up in the banner. If you need help fixing your credit score, maybe you have a credit score that's holding you back from maybe starting a business, or maybe you're paying way too much in interest on credit cards. Maybe your life is just more challenged because of your credit score. Visit cashnow.video. I have an in-house credit repair team. They're absolutely incredible. Visit cashnow.video. If you would like to invest in real estate when the market crashes, cashnow.video. If you would like to get started on YouTube and you'd like to expedite your journey to success, visit cashnow.video and join me on my private calls, my private Discord community, and courses where we all work together to achieve success. I'll catch you guys in the next video.